Well, it's Monday, the 19th, the year of the Lord 2022. From wherever you're watching us in Nairobi, Kenya, and around the world, including London, England, where the Queen Elizabeth II has been buried next to her husband, the late husband, the Duke of Edinburgh. Good evening. I'm Mboya. Top in this live broadcast. Millions of people worldwide follow Queen Elizabeth II's final rites. Lethal brew. 5 die after consuming illicit brew in Isiolo. Their majority question. Azimio and Kenya Kwanza MPs lock horns over recognition. Reporter. Indeed, for joining us. Our sign language interpreter is Byron Abuli. Our socials at KBC Channel 1, my Twitter handle at Tomboya24. Queen Elizabeth II has been buried next to her late husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, after 11 days of lying in state. A state funeral service was conducted earlier today at the Westminster Abbey to commemorate the life of the United Kingdom's longest-serving or reigning monarch, if you like, Queen Elizabeth II. Westminster Abbey is the building in which the late Queen was married and also crowned. The grand state funeral service was attended by members of the royal family and also the world leaders. That report opens our coverage tonight.
A feature of these events.
A congregation of 2,000 people, including world leaders and royalty, were at Westminster Abbey for the Queen's state funeral service. The Queen's fitting state funeral, which happened in accordance with Her Majesty's wishes, is the first one since that of Sir Winston Churchill in 1965. The service was conducted by the Dean of Westminster, David Hoyle, as the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, gave the sermon. During his sermon, the Archbishop of Canterbury said the late Queen touched a multitude of lives during her 70-year reign. Crowds amassed to watch as Queen Elizabeth's coffin left for Westminster Abbey to Windsor Castle, where she will be laid to rest alongside her family. The State House was driven up the Long Walk after an elaborate and somber procession through London. The procession, which involved 3,000 military personnel, passed many of the capital's famous landmarks, such as Wellington Arch. The procession also passed through the Mall, Buckingham Palace and Hyde Park Corner, where the Royal Horse Artillery observed a minute of gunfire, after which 2 bells rang 5 seconds later. The Queen's casket has been lowered into the Royal Vault next to her late husband, the Duke of Edinburgh. She will be laid to rest after a private family service. For Prime Edition, Efinya Kidi.
And on the local front now, 5 people have died and 3 others are admitted to Isiolo County Referral Hospital after consuming lethal alcohol at Kipsing and Oldonyanyiro locations. The killer brew, identified as Smart Vodka, was purchased at Luduko, a market that's along the border of Isiolo and Samburu counties, by a woman believed to be part of a syndicate dealing with suspected contraband goods. Here's that report.
According to Isiolo County Chief Officer in charge of Health Services, Peter Ngeshu, the unnamed woman who ferried the brew from Lodukai Market to Kipsing also consumed the alcohol and is among the 3 people hospitalized. All 3 have complained of side problems, but doctors say they're in stable conditions.
But we have reports like our neighboring county hata wao wameathiriwa, particularly upande wa Wamba, but we hope the whole thing is going to be controlled. Again, we are working together with our officers from Isiolo. They are also working together with our counterpart from Saburu and Wamba to ensure that tunaweza kudhibiti hii hali, na kwa hivyo hakuna hali taharuki.
Isiolo County Director of Public Health Guracha Sariti adding the plans are underway to sensitize residents on the dangers of consuming alcohol with high ethanol content.
Ina affect mwali kitu tunaita kwa Kisungu optic nerves. Ndio watu waoni na kisha baada coordination ya brain na kuna ndio wanakufa. Hiyo ndio dalili.
Isiolo County Governor Abdi Guyo has directed security agents to scale up surveillance and control measures in all entertainment joints and crack down on cartels involved in illegal liquor businesses. Elsewhere in Meru County, police are investigating circumstances that led to the murder of a young man at Miruka Trading Center. According to eyewitnesses, the deceased was walking home from the trading center along a Miruka-Kisii road when 2 unknown people on a motorcycle pulled up by his side. One of the men engaged him in a brief argument before slashing his neck with a machete.
Hiyo sida imeshaingia mara mingi sana hapa, watu wanakatakatwa. Tunaomba serikali ingie ndani itusaidie hapa Miruka.
Ni jambo la kutisha na ni jambo la uoga sana. Tafadhali serikali mtusaidie.
Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, a showdown looms between the Kenya Kwanza Alliance and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party at the National Assembly over who will be the majority party. While MPs allied to the ruling Kenya Kwanza Alliance argue that United Democratic Alliance Party has the highest number of members, those allied to Azimio One Kenya maintain that the majority of members are elected under parties registered in the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party. And as Gishuki Washira reports, the ruling coalition says that it will amend the Political Parties Act to recognize defections even after elections.
Members of the National Assembly from the 2 political divides are set to face off over the recognition of the majority and minority parties. 174 members were elected on parties under Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, while Kenya Kwanza Alliance has 162 members. But Kenya Kwanza MPs argue no member has been elected on Azimio la Umoja ticket. Therefore, UDA party has the majority members in the House.
Azimio Coalition Political Party does not have members, and therefore cannot, and it was not registered as a coalition of political parties. So it cannot in any way say that they have majority.
Any party can sway members on either side to vote for them, like the vote on the speaker took place. But that does not move people from one side to the other, and that does not redefine whether a side is majority or minority. Whether a side is majority or minority is defined at election based on the numbers of MPs a party or a coalition gets.
The defections of a number of MPs from small parties in Azimio la Umoja to Kenya Kwanza Alliance was seen as an attempt to strengthen the ruling alliance's numerical strength in the House.
So kwa hivyo si ati ni watu wana defect wa kununuliwa ama ni watu wana defect kuharibu demokrasia. Ni watu wanaruka kwenda ile upande wao natural yenye roho zao ziko. Ile upande mwingine ilikuwa wako pale kwa sababu roho zao ziko pale.
So these parties, I hear, have expressed their intent to divorce. The divorce has not been made absolute by an order. So they are still fighting to get out of divorce. They remain members of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition, and even their committee positions in Parliament will come through Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition.
Article 108 of the Constitution states the leader of majority party shall be the person who is the leader in the National Assembly of the largest party or coalition of parties, while the leader of minority party shall be the person who is the leader in the National Assembly of the second largest party or coalition of parties. Further, the Constitution places the leader of majority higher in ranking over the leader of minority.
Hao watu ambao wanasemekana wamehama, ili hiyo kuhama yao ikuwe valid, lazima wa resign, warudi kwa mwananchi, waseme sasa mimi siko chini ya Azimio, nataka kusimama kura chini ya Kenya Kwanza.
So ukienda mbunge utapata wale wambunge wako ni wambunge wa ODM, ni wambunge wa UDA, ni wambunge wa Wiper. So tutaangalia ni chama gani chenye kiko na wabunge wengi. Na ukiangalia chama chenye kiko na wabunge wengi ni UDA.
He is going to declare UDA as a party, ODM as a party, Wiper as a party, and he will make judgment based on parties instead of coalitions. Yeah, which is an illegality itself.
Kenya Kwanza's deputy leader in the National Assembly, Mboya, argues it's critical for the ruling party to have the majority command in the House, and it will therefore be moving amendments to the Political Parties Act to recognize defection of members after elections.
I will seek to remove the 3 months period. Yes, that you can actually leave a coalition political party anytime.
At stake is the command of the legislative agenda and the political parties fund that is apportioned based on numerical strength. Gisho Kiwashira, Prime Edition.
Now, the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula says that he will ensure that the remuneration for members in the 13th Parliament is not interfered with. Speaking during the launch of a week-long induction workshop for the legislators, Wetangula said that he is in talks with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission and is optimistic of positive changes. He, at the same time, called on members of Parliament to put aside their party affiliations and focus on discussions that will benefit the country.
National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has moved to reassure lawmakers in the 13th Parliament following the anticipated downward review of benefits proposed by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission.
I want to assure you members that this morning, the reason we came a little late, I was having a meeting with SRC on your behalf. And we have called them to order on a few things, and we believe that before we finish this induction workshop, I'll be able to make several pronouncements on your privileges.
Some of the proposals by SRC include scrapping of sitting allowance and the reduction of the car grants, where members receive 5,000 per sitting and 5 million shillings respectively.
Nobody in their right frame of mind will interfere with your car allowances, with your mileage reimbursements, and with your mortgage and everything else that you have been having, because that is your entitlement. And as your Speaker, I'll ensure that we engage positively.
A section of members, however, say the slashing of the privileges should not lower performance in the August House.
In the execution of its mandate, SRC must embrace the spirit of dialogue and consultation. And that's what the Speaker has stressed this morning. And we hope that in the fullness of time, a solution is going to be arrived at.
We are elected by our people. We need to serve our people well without shortcuts. So if anything comes from CRC, it's okay.
We've got bigger issues to prosecute in the 13th Parliament. And when you think about it, when you look at the economy of the country and all the pending business, there is already so much in our entry that the matters of a beef between Parliament and SRC take a back burner.
SRC is set to clarify the same on Wednesday during its presentation. Various speakers during the first day of the induction called on the legislators to endeavour to make the 13th Parliament more productive.
Parliament through legislation and oversight, and judiciary through interpretation, and application of the law. We cannot interpret laws in a manner that promotes social transformation if those laws were not designed to achieve social transformation at the point of enactment.
If you want to be a great debater and a hawk-eyed member in relation to oversight matters, attend committee meetings and participate in committee meetings. It will make you a much better debater on the floor.
On Tuesday, members will familiarize themselves on the National Government Constituency Development Fund. Kamche Menza for Prime Edition.
Do not interfere with their parks. That's the message coming from National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula to SRC on MPs' remuneration. Well, that story brings us to a fast break. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us.
Are you a holder of unclaimed financial assets? Take advantage of the Finance Act 2022 moratorium on penalties and interests. Surrender any unclaimed financial assets in your possession today. Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. Receive, safeguard, reunite.
Tujaelewana ama hatujamalizana? Which is which? What makes you think I have something to lose?
Yani uliamua kumpeleka kwa daktari behind my back.
Usijaribu kunielekeza kidole cha lawama. Either umzoe ama ujitahadhari naye.
Hiyo mistari nishamwambia tafuta mistari mwingine.
Kuna nini tena? How is Hannah? Casey, shut up!
Do you have a new story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Welcome back, our socials at KBC Channel 1, my Twitter handle at Tomboya24. Let's take you straight into the corridors of justice. An activist has moved to the Meru High Court seeking to block the nomination of 4 individuals as members of the County Assembly, which he argues lacks representation of persons with disability. In his petition, Celesio Mutuma faults the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission for the omission.
The swearing-in of members of the Meru County Assembly is expected to take place on Wednesday, September 21st, 2022. However, the exercise could go on without 4 individuals taking the oath of office after an activist petitioned the High Court. Celesio Mutuma says the 4 were nominated to fill positions of the marginalized and minority members with no considerations for persons with disability. Meru High Court presiding Judge Edward Murithi directed the petitioner to serve the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission the case, with which will be as a matter of urgency on Tuesday, September 20, 2022. Meanwhile, the cross-examination of a Kerio Valley Development Authority procurement specialist, Charity Mboya, in the Aurora and Kimore Dam projects case continued before Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi. Defense lawyer Katwa Kigen probed Mboya on her earlier testimony on the authorization of joint venture by Computer Maintenance Corporation and Hippo Company Limited.
In the case of a JV, in brackets 2, all parties shall be jointly and similarly liable, and 2, there shall be no limit on the number of partners.
Meanwhile, Senior Principal Magistrate Thomas Thiaka has adjourned the hearing of a 588 million shillings graft case involving former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu after one of the leading counsels, John Sakwa, told the court that he was bereaved. 2 witnesses, Nicodemus Odongo, an employee of National Hospital Insurance Fund, and Zachary Kabera from Juka Consolidated Company, are expected to testify in the case on October 14th, 2022, after which the court is expected to give further directions. Abdikair Mohammed for Prime Edition.
take you to Kisumu, where Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has challenged the organizers of the Kenya National Music Festivals to collaborate with industry players with a view to reinvigorate the event. Professor Magoha says that the annual event should be conducted as a routine, not as a routine, but rather a platform where top talent is identified and later nurtured. Weekly for Ketch with more details.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha posing for a photograph alongside participants from the Thika School for the Visually Impaired. Professor Magoha was the chief guest at the official opening of the Kenya National Music Festival, currently underway in the lakeside city of Kisumu.
It is now my pleasure to officially open the 94th Kenya Music Festival.
The Cabinet Secretary used the opportunity to challenge the organizers of the annual event to give it a fresh outlook.
We have also seen an industry that is bubbling with life. This is a testament to the robust creativity in our country, which is well harnessed, if well harnessed, will be the next big source of job creation. At this moment, I wish to challenge the Executive Committee to partner to take music to the next level.
Professor Magoha expressed his desire to see the Kenyan entertainment industry rising to the levels of Nollywood of Nigeria and Hollywood in the United States of America, sentiments also mirrored by Kisumu Governor Professor Anyang' Nyong'o.
And perhaps to also tie this with drama, because in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Nollywood industry has now overtaken Hollywood. There are hundreds of thousands of millionaires there who create jobs, and ours is to watch them here in Kenya.
The annual Kenya Music Festival is an important co-curricular event, not only in Kenya but across Africa. It's a melting pot for talents and cultural benchmarking events. I'm sure that what we are witnessing here today could in fact be a program in the BBC and the CBS.
The festival, which returns after a 2-year break, will end on the 25th of September 2022. For a Prime Edition from Kisumu County, I am Wycliffe Okech.
From Kisumu, let's take you to Machakos County, where the government there has embarked on equipping the county's hospitals with medical supplies. Machakos County Governor Wavinya Ndeti flagged off the second batch of medical supplies from Kenya Medical Supplies Agency worth 48 million shillings to be distributed right across health facilities in that county.
Machakos Governor Wavinya Ndeti says she will ensure all hospitals will receive medical supplies quarterly to ensure accessibility. She committed to ensure installation of a bulk liquid oxygen tank at Kagundo Hospital to equip the new intensive care unit in an effort to decongest Machakos Level 5 Hospital.
Na ningewaomba wale hawako ndani ya NHIF, tafadhali waingie kwa NHIF. Kuna mikakati tunaangalia tuone kama tunaweza kulipia wale disabled na wale wako over 65 years. Hao tuwalipie NHIF, lakini wale wengine wajikakamue, si ndio?
These as Kiambu County Assembly finalized preparations for the swearing-in ceremony for the members of the County Assembly, which will take place on Wednesday, September 21st, 2022.
No. It should be
After taking the oath of office, they will elect the Speaker of the Assembly. 9 candidates have been cleared to contest for the Speaker's seat.
Ya muhimu ni yule mtu utakayepatia ile kiti. Iwe ni mwanamume, iwe ni mwanamke. Yule mtu atatumanage kupatia ile kiti. Awe ni mtu ako na uadilifu, ni mtu ako na maono, na ya muhimu awe ni mtu atajitolea kwa mhanga usiku na mchana kufanyia wananchi wa Kiambu kazi.
Elsewhere in Vihiga County, 14 candidates have expressed their desire to be Speaker of the County Assembly. The decision will be made on Wednesday, September 21st, 2022, after the members of the County Assembly take the oath of office. Beatrice Getonyang-Etich, Prime Edition.
Association Eco World Recycling Centre has received a major boost following a partnership and donation of 7.2 million shillings from the Coca-Cola Foundation. The funding will aid the purchase of plastic recycling machines and also protective gears for workers, as well as creating more job opportunities for the local community.
Speaking during the donation ceremony, Watamu Marine Association Eco World Recycling Centre project manager Steve Trott say the funding will boost the efforts in plastic recycling while creating value chains and income for over 500 women and youths in Kilifi County.
The partnership entered today between the Coca-Cola Foundation, Watamu Marine Association and Eco World Recycling is going to change the dynamics of plastic recycling in the county. This project, called Empowering Women and Youth for the Plastic Circular Economy, is going to create plastic value chains, jobs and income for more than 500 women and youth in the county.
He further stated that normally they collect around 20 tons of plastic monthly in Kilifi and Mombasa counties.
Currently, we're collecting and recycling around 20 tons of plastic a month. With the machinery through this partnership, we're now going to be able to target 50 tons a month of plastic in Kilifi County and also in Mombasa City.
On her part, the Coastal Bottlers representative Pauline Moura say that as responsible plastic producers, it is their duty to support conservation initiatives that will in turn uplift the livelihood of communities where they operate.
As responsible users of plastic and producers, these are things that we have to do. We can't just leave it to the society around us. We have to also participate, and this is why we are very honored to partner with people like EcoWorld and Watamu. EcoWorld and WWF and every other project that will be coming henceforth.
Sentiments echoed by Kilifi County Director of Environment Zena Mohammed and Watamu Marine National Park and Reserve Warden Dudley Kilhula, noting that plastic has been a global challenge globally, with 37,000 tons of plastic waste from Kenya going into the Indian Ocean annually, endangering marine life.
Leo tuko hapa tu kuangazia kwamba si namna gani wananchi wataweza kufaidika kupitia miradi ya kuokota takataka na kurecycle takataka, pia upande mwingine waweze kujikimu katika maisha yao pia.
Mimi naambia community ya kwamba wawe wakakamavu kusaidiana pamoja na Watamu Marine Association na mashirika mengine ambayo yako hapa kuhakikisha kwamba plastic zozote ambazo zitakuwa katika maeneo yao wao wanaweza kuzimanage vilivyo.
The Conservation Association was started 10 years ago to engage in beach cleanup, but has now diversified into tackling solid waste disposal. Opicho Chemtai for Prime Edition.
Now, more than 120 expectant mothers from Mnarani ward, that's in Kilifi County, turned up at Mnarani Dispensary for maternal care services offered free of charge, courtesy of the Kilifi County government. The event, dubbed Maternity Open Day, is a maternal mortality prevention strategy launched in 2018 in Kilifi County with the aim of reducing maternal infant mortality by providing care as well as education to mothers of unborn and also newborn babies.
Recent report by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics on maternal infant mortality shows about 550 out of 100,000 mothers in Kilifi County die of pregnancy complications annually. Kenneth Meriti, the Kilifi County Reproductive Health Coordinator, attributes the crisis to low uptake of maternal mortality interventions at various health facilities in the region and preference for traditional birth attendants.
Vifo vya kina mama ni mengi. Kuna wale ambao wanakufa sana kupitia kwa mimba ama wale ambao wanatoa mimba kwa abortion, na hao huwa wanakufa kule nyumbani, na wakati swali likiulizwa kule nyumbani, basi wanahesabiwa pamoja na wale ambao wanakuja kujifungua. Lakini katika hospitali visa vya kina mama kufa katika hospitali sio vingi.
Elsewhere, residents of Moyale in Marsabit County have decried the high cost of basic commodities such as maize flour and fuel, while lamenting the prices of basic commodities are high in Moyale as compared to most parts of the country. They called on the government to come up with relief measures to cushion them.
Ya tope imepotea, sasa simiti inatoka Nairobi na kuja hapa, simiti moja inaenda mfuko moja 900 shillings. Kwa hivyo mwenye anataka kujenga ni ngumu kujenga nyumba sasa. Mabati naenda 1000 na kitu.
In Kakamega, an exclusive breastfeeding room has been set up at Malava Sub-County Hospital for healthcare workers. The unit is meant to reduce time wasted by health workers going back home to breastfeed their young ones while they are supposed to be on duty. It was sponsored by Touch Alive, a community-based organization whose director is former Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya's wife, Priscilla.
Hiyo maneno ya absenteeism haitakuwa, na maneno ya mama kuacha nyumbani mtoto atapewa maziwa maji kabla ya 6 months, hiyo sasa hakuna, na bonding itakuwa very very high. Mama atabond na mtoto, and this also caters for hiyo nurturing care.
Busia Senator Okia Omtata has threatened to move to court to block the tendering for manufacture of new digital motor vehicle registration plates. Omtata argues the government should use the equipment procured by the Interior Ministry some 2 years ago instead of contracting another firm to do it.
Wametoa sampuli ya number plate na tayari hii barua inaonyesha kwamba hawajafanya procurement ya mashine ya kutengeneza hii number plates. So huenda wanatumia zile mashine ziko kamiti kutengeneza hizo number plates, alafu wanalagai wa Kenya wanatafuta tender, wanatafuta namna ya procure mtu ambaye atakuja kutengeneza hizo number plates.
He also claimed the deal would further burden Kenyans who are already struggling with a high cost of living. Elsewhere, more than 2,000 elders from 9 clans of the Samburu community have resolved to curse youths engaging in crime in the region. During a meeting held at Yamo area in Samburu Central Sub-County, the elders took issue with a spike in attacks in the area that have left several people dead and property lost. Finally, 2 community-based organizations, one based in Nairobi and another in Mombasa County, have partnered to recycle plastic waste in Bangladesh informal settlement in Mombasa. Pwani Youth Network and Plastiki Rafiki from Nairobi are empowering communities to earn a living by recycling plastics. The partnership also seeks to contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals by improving livelihoods for the youth while enhancing skills on collecting, sorting and processing waste at the coast.
We currently have 12 workshops all over the country focusing on recycling just taka plastic from the street and turning it into useful products that can be used in your home, as decoration, all over the country.
Reporting for Palm Edition, I'm Elvis Otieno.
Are you a holder of unclaimed financial assets? Take advantage of the Finance Act 2022 moratorium on penalties and interests. Surrender any unclaimed financial assets in your possession today. Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. Receive, safeguard, reunite.
I waited so many years for you to come back to this place, but I never thought that you'd do it like this. You're beside someone who's taking you further away from me.
It was very strange. I felt that she was in front of me and that she wanted to kill me.
No, sweetheart, that was just a nightmare, okay?
That's what I just found out just now. Angelica has left. She won't be at the hotel anymore.
What am I gonna do? She calls me all the time and she chases me. It's not really my fault that she likes me more than you. Right?
Nuria has always wished the worst for every member of this family except you.
Goodness, I've been so blind all these years. Why didn't I ever realize the extent of Nuria's bitterness and desire for revenge?
And 4,800.
Well, thank you for joining us, and I hope that you're doing well on this 19th day of September 2022. Let's take a look at today's business news. Now, Kenyans will continue to contribute a minimum of 200 shillings a month and 4,800 shillings in a year to the National Social Security Fund. NSSF mandatory pension follows a ruling by the High Court. Now, while pronouncing itself, the three-judge bench termed the proposed National Social Security Fund bill as null and void for being in contravention, or rather in contravention of the Constitution.
Enhance efficacy, the National Assembly on the 4th of December 2013 passed a National Social Security Fund bill that received presidential assent on the 24th of December 2013. A number of parties went to court challenging its implementation on account of the mandatory nature of registration and contributions to the fund. The ruling made by a three-judge bench of the High Court reads in part, an order issued restraining the first and second respondents from applying the NSSF Act of 2013 on petitioner members of any other employees who have adequate alternative pension or social security schemes unless they opt in. Further, an order is issued prohibiting the government from compelling or requiring mandatory registration, enrollment, or listing of any employer or employee, whether registered as a member or any retirement benefit scheme, or not to register, enroll, or list and contribute their earnings or in any party thereof. The new bill sought to enforce a minimum mandatory pension as 12% of pensionable income in equal measures, with both the employee and the employer contributing 6%. This means one earning 10,000 shillings would pay 1,200 shillings monthly, while the one who earns 140,000 would pay 17,280 shillings as mandatory pension. The ruling further read, NSSF Act number 45 of 2013 has implication on county finances, and therefore the bill ought to have been tabled before Senate prior to enactment. The Act is therefore null and void. As such, the old rates remain in effect. Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, NSSF is responsible for collection and safekeeping and responsible investment and distribution of retirement of funds of employees, both informal and informal sector. Now, let's look at the composition of the NSSF board, as well as when it was started, and as well as also what are the provisions for self-employed, as well as those who are doing voluntary contributions that are doing right now of about 200 shillings. And President William Ruto had proposed that we increase this monthly contribution to about 400 shillings per person. Now, let's look at this contribution rate. Now, the rate that we are currently contributing as a country, or as employees in the formal and informal sector, are guided by the NSSF Act passed in January 2014. Now, the current minimum rate for this fund is 200 shillings, and that is per month. And this, and the employer rather matches the contribution. That is another 200 shillings. There's also provision for self-employed and voluntary contribution, and also members are free to top up the contribution, meaning you can increase this monthly contribution from 200 to whatever amount you would want to save for the future. Now, moving on to how the NSSF board is comprised of. Seems like my smart board is misbehaving a bit. There we go. Oh, this one you have just handled. Let's look at the history of NSSF. Now, it was established in 1965 as a provident fund for workers. That is in 1965. In 1997, it was transformed to an autonomous state corporation. And the following year, in 1988 to date, the fund, overseen by Board of Trustees, drawn from government, workers and employees. Now, the target for this fund, that is the National Security and Social social fund is that workers in the formal and informal sector are the one targeted by this fund to contribute and save for the future. Now in 2017, the rules were changed and from a provident fund to a pension fund. Now, earlier on, I had talked about these rates that are guided by the NSSF Act in January 2014. And that is how the history and the rates of the NSSF are for now. But we'll be telling you more about the mixed reactions that have come from this proposal by President William Ruto to increase the monthly contribution from 200 shillings to 400 shillings. And today, the High Court did declare that the mandatory contribution of NSSF is unconstitutional. Now, we'll wait and see what the next move will be now from the NSSF team and also from the government. Now, moving on to other stories that are making headlines this evening, we have only 10 digital lenders that have been cleared for operation by the Central Bank of Kenya after the stipulated licensing period ended on Friday last week. The Central Bank says the remaining 278 applicants are at different stages of approval and the delay stems from pending documentation submission. The CBK is calling on the public to report any unregulated digital lender still in service.
Digital credit providers were in March this year conditioned to apply for licensing or risk being shut out of service. The Central Bank of Kenya had provided a 6-month period for the fulfillment of this condition with the window of registration ending in September this year. This came about after the Apex Bank received concerns raised by the public on the predatory practices of unregulated DCPs, including high interest rates, unethical debt collection practices, and the abuse of personal information. The rigorous licensing process included, among others, the details of ICT system used, an independent audit platform, and the terms and conditions of credit products and services. The CBK now says only 10 out of the 288 applicants have successfully been licensed, and the remaining DCPs are yet to complete the process. They are now urging digital lenders who applied and are yet to be given the green light to submit pending documentation to ensure they can continue with their service provision. Tala, a popular digital lender, was not listed among the 10. The company released a statement assuring customers and stakeholders that the CBK is processing its application, saying that they had submitted the requisite documentation. The statement read in part, the CBK received 288 applications between the 18th of March 2022 and the 17th of September 2022, and we understand that each application is being reviewed in order of receipt. Would like to assure our stakeholders, including our customers and employees, that Tala submitted its application for the requisite license in advance of the CBK's deadline of 17th September 2022. And we are working with the CBK with regards to our application. For digital lenders who did not apply for licensing, the CBK has issued a stern warning to desist their operation, saying the window has closed for seeking certification. Hippo for Prime Edition.
Fishermen and families around Lake Naivasha are concerned over the rising cases of hippos threatening their livelihoods. This follows the October 2019 heavy rains that saw the lake the lake burst its banks, allowing increased contact with those within the area.
Lake Naivasha has long been a place where humans and wildlife converge. The result is a deadly mix of humans and hippos competing over a thin strip of territory. Nature is reclaiming Naivasha, and the result has led to dangerous melees, ones that humans do not win. According to data released by the National Geographic, hippos kill an estimated 500 people every year across Africa. The heavy rains that began in October 2019 caused Lake Naivasha to swell to its largest size in nearly a century, flooding the land upon which hundreds of hippos had grazed. With the water pushing up against the fences of farms and homes that surround the lake, they are now forced to mill about the same shallow edge where fishermen would previously cast their nets.
Katika shughuli zangu za uvuvi, lakini nikapatana na huyo mnyama. Anakuwaga one in a while. lakini mimi am one of them. Nipatana naye nikiwa shughuli zangu kuchukua neti, akanichemkia na akanichangamkia.
Most of those killed are fishermen who have no other form of income and wade into the water on foot. The fishermen are now calling on the government to intervene urgently and allocate emergency funds for relocation, as well as a compensation fund for families attacked by the hippos. The disappearance of dry land for the hippos to graze upon is due not only to Lake Naivasha's rising waters, which have climbed 12 vertical feet, but also illegal human encroachment on the protected riparian boundary. Nduta Mokami for Prime Edition.
Thank you, Nduta Mukami, for that report. Now, the cost of living will start easing in coming weeks on account of reduced global basic commodity prices. Now, Central Bank Governor Dr. Patrick Njoroge now says the high cost of edible oils and fuel is expected to reduce globally.
Currently, inflation is at a 62-month high of 8.5% as Kenyans grapple with the high cost of commodities. The central bank says it expects the retail price of most commodities to stabilize in coming weeks as global crude oil prices reduce. CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge told members of the National Assembly that the country might not need subsidies in the next few weeks as prices of most basic commodities, including edible oils, will have reduced drastically.
Since June, the global prices of a lot of the things that we import has begun to come down. And it will continue, we hope. And so by December, we'll have much better landed prices.
Dr. Njoroge said there are enough foreign exchange reserves to support importation of basic commodities.
I want to be very explicit about this. We have more than enough pieces of paper, currency, for the country. More than enough in all denominations.
He urged the National Treasury to have engagements with all stakeholders on how to pay off government creditors, as floating bonds to pay off pending bills is not a viable option.
Domestic financing was 690 billion. 690. That's what the central bank was required to raise in domestic borrowing for the budget in the financial year. How does that compare to 500? Actually, we didn't even manage 680. We ended up at 600. So I think the point is, I would want us to have a conversation, so that we can put our 2 cents in the mix.
The 13th Parliament has been advised against approving any new debts before the current ones are managed.
Or every 100 shillings, 40 shillings go to debt service. So you begin to ask yourself, but wait a second, what about salaries? What about medicine? What about building roads?
Benson Druba reporting for Prime Edition.
And almost Kenyans are looking forward to the easing of the high cost of living. Now, moving on, the anti-counterfeit agencies in Kenya and Uganda are jointly ramping up efforts to combat contraband through the use of technology and research. They say intelligence sharing and enhancing of controls along their borders are some of the immediate interventions to contain the flow of illicit trade. The value of illicit trade in Kenya is about 800 billion shillings, according to a survey by the Anti-Counterfeit Agency.
Which had increased from a level of around 700 billion Kenya shillings, an increase of 100 billion Kenya shillings in 1 year.
55% of the products sold on the Ugandan market were counterfeit, stroke substandard.
Counterfeiters mainly target fast-moving consumer goods such as drugs, electronics, textile and construction materials.
So those are the areas that we want to cover, including within the agricultural sector. We even have fake fertilizer that is being manufactured and causing a lot of impact on food security in this country.
The survey by the Anti-Counterfeit Agency shows that 78% of consumers in Kenya buy counterfeit goods as they are cheaper compared to original products, posing a health risk to the users.
There's the demand for these illicit goods by the consumers because the consumers are not able to identify the different aspects of illicit goods, and therefore, because of that particular demand, then you find that there's a supply for these goods. And as ACA, together with ACN, our job is to sensitize the public.
Anti-counterfeit agencies in Kenya and Uganda are employing the use of technology to enhance joint surveillance of counterfeit or substandard goods.
We are organizing for activities like joint researches so that we can understand what is happening within the region, so that we're able to inform the policy making within the East African region on matters of counterfeiting.
So the collaboration that we are going to have with the SEA is to ensure that, one, we deepen the understanding of the menace of counterfeits.
They say intelligence sharing and engaging key stakeholders on the porous borders are some of the immediate intervention measures that will be undertaken to contain the movement of counterfeit or substandard goods.
That is where we put a cap on tonight's business news. My name is Caroline Jenger. On the other end of the studio, we have Richard Munga with the latest from the National Women's Volleyball team. Have a good night.
She was like you. She would set up the fire and I would cook. I don't know how she got by.
You told me before that he could cause you trouble. I'm afraid that...
What is it?
I heard that the heavens has been looking for Mars' body for 70,000 years.
That day, Francis and I were there to have fun. Did Geneva find out about that? Does he know that I'm Echo?
I've never stopped searching for Echo, except for when I was stationed at Long Sea. But I've found nothing. I guess that's it. Are you trying to start another war?
Oh, good evening and thank you for joining us for tonight's edition of KBC Sports with me, Richard Munga. Now, national women volleyball team Malkia Strikers will head to the Netherlands on Tuesday for the World Championships that are set to start off on Friday. The Kenyan girls produced a morale-boosting 3 straight sets win over Serbia's B national team in their second and last friendly match in Serbia.
Malkia Strikers, who lost by straight set to Serbian League champions Red Star Belgrade in the first friendly match, redeemed themselves, winning in convincing scores of 25-18, 25-20 and 25-11. The Kenyan girls now will head to the Netherlands in high spirits after their remarkable victory.
Tumefanya leo, najua tutafanya huko mbele. Hakuna kitu ngumu, ni kujiamini tu, na mimi na believe in my team Malkia Strikers, na I believe in God. Kila kitu inawezekana, hakuna kitu ngumu.
Today we find a very young team from Serbia. It's not a senior team, but a team that will be prepared for the future. And if you look in the Kenyan roster on the team that was playing today, there are many young players as well.
4 Kenyan players managed to hit double digits, with Sharon Chepchumba emerging top scorer with 33 points. Captain Mercy Mohim scored 19 points, Noel Murambi 16 points, and center player Edith Wisa scored 14 points.
na ukiangalia tactically like team services zetu leo tumelose less, like tumekuwa na less mistake, which ni encouraging sana kwa timu yetu, and moving forward I know and I believe we are going to do the best.
Malkia Strikers have been drawn in Group A of the World Championships alongside host the Netherlands, perennial nemesis Cameroon, Europeans champions Italy, Puerto Rico and Belgium. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Well, a tough draw indeed for Malkia Strikers, but as always, the girls always surprise us. So all the best to Malkia Strikers in the upcoming World Championships. To other matters now, 5-time East Africa volleyball champions Kwanza Girls Secondary School advanced to the semi-finals of the ongoing Federation of East Africa Secondary School Games after humbling Uganda's Hilton High School by 3 straight sets in their final Group B match in Arusha, Tanzania. The Justin Kigwari Charges easily won the match 25-19, 25-16 and 25-18, while compatriots Kesogon trounced Kanjumele of Uganda by the same margin. In other matches, Kenya's Mboya lost by 3 straight sets to Rwanda's Nyarugunga, while Stahiza defeated Bomba by 3-0. In football, Highway Secondary School were held to a 1-1 draw by Tanzania's Kawira and will take on Gasiza of Rwanda tomorrow. Uganda won the overall title during the previous edition held in Arusha, Tanzania. And now on to news making headlines globally. Spain defeated France 88-76 to win the 2022 FIBA Eurobasket title in Berlin. Spain led with 21 points in the second, their first international tournament. They continue to dominate Europe. This was their 4th Eurobasket title. Well, now, of course, Kenya got their T20 campaign back on track with a 9-wicket win over Cameroon in South Africa. And tomorrow we're going to be finding out their opponents in the next stage. So stay tuned in to KBC subsequent sports bulletins, as well as our website, www.kbc.co.ke. Well, that's it for me. I'm Richard Munga. Do have a good night, but don't go too far. Mboya is on the other side of the studio to wrap matters up. Good night.
There you go. Many thanks indeed to Richard Munga and Karen Jenga, who was there earlier on. I want to thank you so much for watching this bulletin on the day that Kenya registered no COVID-19 death case at all, but confirmed 6 new cases over the last 24 hours with a positivity rate of 1.2%. I want to thank you on behalf of the Prime Edition team, including Byron Buri. My name is Mboya, and I am wishing you good night from Nairobi, Kenya. Bye-bye.
Surrender all unclaimed financial assets in your possession to the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, UFAA, today without having to pay interest or penalties. Take advantage of the Finance Act 2022 moratorium on penalties.